The desert wind carried nothing but dust and silence. When the cowboy rode into the dying town of Red Hollow, his horse was weary, his hat stained from weeks of sun and sand. He hadn't seen a living soul for miles, until he caught sight of her, a woman, crouched beside an empty well, her face half hidden behind tangled hair, eyes hollow with hunger. She looked like someone who'd already given up on being found. The cowboy stopped his horse and watched for a moment, unsure if she was real or just another mirage born from exhaustion and loneliness. But when she turned her face toward him, he saw something fierce behind that hunger, something alive that refused to die quietly. He dismounted, reached into his saddlebag, and pulled out the last piece of cornbread he owned, wrapped in a strip of cloth. It was supposed to be his dinner that night, the final crumb before the long road toward nowhere. He knelt beside her, holding it out gently. But instead of taking it, she stared at him with fire in her eyes and said in a voice both trembling and proud, "I don't need your pity." For a long moment neither spoke. The wind moaned through the ghost town, and the world seemed to stop breathing. The cowboy looked at her, not as a beggar, but as a soul caught in the same storm as his own. "Ma'am," he said softly, "this ain't pity. It's just supper." And then, without another word, he placed the bread beside her and stepped back. Something changed in her eyes as she watched him. The kind of change that happens when a person realizes kindness still exists in a world that's forgotten how to be kind. She reached for the bread, hesitating, as though it burned her hands. When she finally took a bite, tears streaked the dust on her face. The cowboy turned away, giving her space, pretending not to see. But inside him, something stirred, something he thought the desert had long dried up, compassion. He sat by the campfire that night outside the town, and when she appeared from the darkness to sit across from him, neither said a word. They simply shared the silence, the stars, and what little warmth was left between two strangers who didn't owe each other a thing. As the night deepened, she told him her name was Clara. Once, she'd been a rancher's wife before the drought took everything, her home, her man, her hope. She had walked across 3 counties trying to find work, food, or a reason to keep moving. He listened quietly, the firelight painting her face in shades of gold and sorrow. When she finished, she looked at him and asked, "Why'd you help me?" He smiled faintly. "Because someone once helped me when I didn't. Think I was worth saving?" Her eyes softened. In that moment, the walls around her heart began to crack, and through those cracks, a faint light slipped in. They sat together until dawn, when the horizon turned the color of old whiskey, and for the first time in years, Clara smiled. The next morning, they rode together through the valley where silence met the wind. He didn't know where he was headed, and she didn't ask. Some journeys don't need direction, only understanding. As the sun climbed higher, he looked over and saw her sitting taller in the saddle, strength returning to her face. She caught him looking and said, half teasing, "Don't think saving me makes you some kind of hero, cowboy." He grinned. "Wouldn't dream of it, ma'am." The road stretched ahead, endless and uncertain, but somehow neither felt alone anymore. And as their silhouettes disappeared over the ridge, the voice of the wind seemed to whisper through the desert, telling a story of pride, kindness, and 2 lost souls who found each other when the world had nothing left to give.